Dear Miss Elfenbein, this is Fanny Berman speaking. I want to thank you ever so much for your very lovely letter. You know, when one hasn't seen a friend for a long time, one wonders how that friend has changed. After your reading your letter, Max and I decided that you haven't changed a bit. You're just the same unpretentious, charming person we've always known. But the world has changed a lot, hasn't it, since we last met? We've been through the most terrible war in history, and who knows what crises we've yet to go through. Most people have changed with the times, often for the worse. It's good to find someone who is still the same. All your notices of the recitals reached us, and we read them with interest. Particularly were we glad to know that you were helping the war effort through your recitals at the Brooklyn Museum. Max has always said, Miss Elfenbein, more than an artist. She's an artist with a social conscience. That's a rare combination. It was but natural that you should lend your ability to help the sale of war bonds. Much as we would have wanted to attend your recitals in person, we were not able to. Max's job as postman is now harder than ever, and after his day's work, he is just too tired to do anything but worry if he'll be well enough to go to work the next day. And on Sunday, he gets up very late, lies on the couch. We haven't been to a Broadway show or a lecture or concert in years. And I also have a job. Due to Max's skimpy post office salary, I had to polish up on my knowledge of accounting, and now I have a part-time, 2-day-a-week job as accountant. Still, we don't just live to work. Miriam is a lovely, intelligent child going on 10. Max bought her a violin to study, but before starting on the violin, we decided that it would be best to give her a good start with a year of piano lessons. She has come to like the piano so well in the few months that she's been studying it that I'm afraid that we are going to be stuck with the violin, but that doesn't matter. Without any incentive, she went ahead and wrote a little play, and she's still trying to get her friends to accept the role. But her friends tell her to get someone else, and they'll come to see the play. Despite his fatigue, however, from daily work, Max has succeeded in almost completing this big recorder. It wasn't made primarily for business purposes. He conceived of it primarily as a weapon for fighting anti-Semitism. He feels that people are still not sufficiently awake to the menace of anti-Semitism in this country. He works among Gentiles, and he knows the attitude of a large proportion of them. The average person does not read much, but still listens to the radio. Anti-Semitism is a controversial, in quotes, and is seldom mentioned on the radio. So he thought up the idea of, in quotes, living room broadcast. That is, a counteroffensive against anti-Semitism through voice recordings. Anti-Semitism propaganda could be disseminated through voice recordings, recorded playlists, readings, speeches by famous men, which could be played in homes or at public gatherings. These could be distributed through organizations or sold, and so on. But first, we had to have a recorder. Scripts had to be recorded and tried upon listeners. Max managed to buy a cheap second-hand recorder for $65. This worked poorly. He then went out, but meantime, Max had learned enough to realize that this recorder was insufficient, and a larger and a better one was needed. A large recorder cost hundreds and even thousands of dollars, and during the war, it was unobtainable without a war priority. So Max decided to make one himself. Even in ordinary times, it would have been a task for an engineer, and in wartime, it was impossible to purchase the necessary parts without a priority. Still, he enrolled in a school where radio shop work was taught evenings, and there he made the amplifier. The other part, gathered from all kinds of sources, reports secondhand, often through sheer luck. Anyway, he completed it, and it works. The recorder is complete, and he had come to realize that the whole undertaking is a little too much for one person. With a limited time and limited means. People praise his idea of fighting anti-Semitism with voice recordings, but do not offer to help. It looks like I'm coming to the end of the Ethel. Ethel. Would you please turn it over?